What are some of the obstacles, general or technical, that Canada faces in our path to go green, and how can these be overcome?
Again, I guess it touches on something that we've discussed before. I think the obstacle is not really technical. I think the obstacle is more kind of organizational, right? Like we have all of the pieces, and we have the resources, we have the knowledge. What we don't have is the coordination, right? We don't have a road plan. We don't have a kind of a coordinated approach across provinces and federally. We don't have a coordinated approach between the public sector and the private sector. It's like all of these kind of things are happening in isolation. Just as an example, we're participating in the kind of emerging hydrogen ecosystem. And there's conferences across the country, and everybody's talking about hydrogen and what's this going to look like? We don't know. What's it going to look like in Ontario? What's it going to look like in Alberta? What technologies are we going to back and get behind? What are we most well suited to? And it's a lot of uncoordinated activity going on across the country and in different public, private sectors, universities. And there's just not a lot of coordination. So I think that's our biggest obstacle, is just a lack of that kind of coordinated roadmap. And I think we have all the pieces of the puzzle, but there's nobody with all the pieces on the table trying to put them together into one picture.
I would add education and training as well, because the technologies are there. When we're talking about electric mobility, I've been having conversations with people from the private sector for years, if not decades, and many of them don't know what's in it for them, what are the issues, what are the opportunities, what are the technologies. So I would say that on a monthly basis for many, many years, I've been talking to different companies or institutions saying, well, this is what you can do. Can we do this? I mean, I'll be honest with you. I mean, it's even worse than that. I mean, I am teaching some OEMs how electric mobility works, believe it or not. So there's so much education that needs to be done, to help transition towards electric vehicles from light to heavy duty. So education is very important. And the other one, training. I'm sure you see the same thing, Robert, in your segment. But what we see is that we need qualified workers. We need interested workers and passionate workers to start working in our industry. And right now we are still in COVID, and we are looking to find workers, and it's not an easy task. So I'm just trying to imagine what it's going to be after COVID, when things really pick up. It's going to be an issue to find qualified people. So we have to have plans to make sure that we train as many people as we can, or retrain as many people as we can, so they can fill these positions, because otherwise we won't be able to grow as fast.
I'd like to just add one more thing that Daniel kind of triggered a thought for me when you talk about training. I was thinking about it a little bit differently, and it's kind of training of the workforce. So, one of the barriers that I think we have in this country is that we have a long-standing existing investment in conventional energy, right? So, we have a vested interest as a nation in the oil and gas industry. There's a lot of jobs there. There's a lot of money there. I mean, the economies of entire provinces rely on that industry, and it is a barrier to going green, right? Because we have to say, we're not going to pursue those industries anymore. We're going to pursue these other industries. Well, what happens to all of the people that derive their livelihoods from the oil and gas sector? It's easy to say academically we're going to go through an energy transition, and these are the technologies of the future, but we're talking about, real people and real families who live in real places. And, I sell to those companies. A lot of them are my customers. And, how do we get, we have to get them on board. There has to be something in it for them. And they have to be part of the transition. It can't be a transition that leaves them behind. And that happens in spite of them. It has to happen with them. And a lot of those people working in the energy industry have the skills that we need if in this energy transition. You know, we talk about hydrogen. I mean, the same people that are working on equipment for oil and gas are going to be the ones working on equipment for hydrogen. And so I think that is a barrier too, is we've not got the buy-in of the people engaged in the kind of conventional industries where we have this kind of fixed investment, and you can't walk away from that fixed investment and those people and pursue some other transition without them. So I think that that's important to get them on board. And maybe that's through some kind of training, grants, incentives, making them economically benefit from a transition.
But you see, Dennis, what you just mentioned, because I've been talking about this to people at the federal level for quite a while now. There are new programs now in place to help workers transition to greener technology. So, but you have to know about these programs, and you have to get teachers to give these training programs and retraining programs. So that's very important. But because you're absolutely right, and we can't leave these people behind. I mean, I remember back in 10 years ago, in 2011, there was the issue of a refinery that would shut down, that would close actually in Montreal. And I went to the Quebec government, and I went to the union, and I went to the company. I said, well, why don't we use these infrastructure and transform that into a biomethane plant, And all of them said, no, we just want to keep this place open. So it closed. And 10 years later, we're still looking for a place to install a biomethane plant in Montreal. So we missed a great opportunity there. I couldn't believe that the union would, be on board with this, but to them, there was a conservative way of thinking at things. Say, no, let's keep doing what we've been doing for years, if not decades, and I hope that it's going to stay that way. To me, I look at this and I say, well, haven't you heard about Blockbuster or other technologies that have disappeared? Because it's happening, and it's happening really quickly, like Robert said. So we have to be on top of this game, and right now we're not.
All right, our next question will be for Raj. What are the most crucial areas or burning issues in energy-based research today?
Oh, there's a lot of the amount of research happening in energy is probably going up exponentially. I try to stay abreast on some of the battery research, and the number of papers being published is increasing. It's always been large, but it's increasing year by year. So the big push in the battery space is research with regards to solid state batteries, which would be enabling much higher energy densities, potentially enable electric aircrafts, lower cost of electric vehicles, etc. So it's a big area of research taking place. We ourselves are heavily involved in that. So my team of 6 PhDs are very focused on that. Then in other sectors, of course, other speakers here mentioned hydrogen. There's plenty of research going on there. I as a scientist, I believe nuclear is a technology we shouldn't ignore. France has 70% of their electricity derived from nuclear energy. It's non-emitting technology, and if done, and Canada actually has some very valuable technology there that which hasn't been exploited or built on in many years. So I'd say that there's many. That's just a few of them. Of course, there's research in solar, wind, etc. But I think all these areas need to be promoted. No one area should be the key focus.